as a person, I have to take positives from anything negative that happens to me and everything that I've been through. That for me is how I survive. That's for me how I better my life, how I go on to better things. And, you know, I turn my focus to work and to ambition and being curious and learning different things, and then just seeing this opportunity, which actually turned out to be a great opportunity to empower women. You know, a lot of people are, well, gosh, you went through that abuse. Why would you go into something like this? But there was an opportunity there. And, you know, fast forward, I mean, I'm 61 now. I was 21 when I started. So fast forward 40 years.
You look 25.
You say all the right things.
Yeah, but you do. Oh, fuck it, you're 61. Fuck me. I'm mental. That's crazy.
So I know what I've done has been culture changing. And I'm super proud of that. I really am. And, you know, anybody that's listening that is 25 will not know the crusade that I've been on for the last 40 years. I mean, you just wouldn't believe that you know, what you couldn't do and what you couldn't do then, what you can do now, and the changes in attitudes of, you know, the generations of today compared to the generations then.
I really want to talk about that because I know you had some really tumultuous experiences going on that crusade. And I love talking about shifting perceptions. And also we've seen in our lifetime how quickly a lot of perceptions have shifted around, like, you know, equality and sexuality and gender. And the crusade that you know, led, I think has been a really important one. Probably more important than a lot of people realize. I wanted to pick up on one thing you said about you being shy. You know, what you've gone on to do in your career and life and the crusade you've led is not one that would, you know, one would think would be led by a shy person. The person that I've met today doesn't seem to be a shy person necessarily, to me. Seems to be one of conviction and confidence and belief. In hindsight, how did you go from being that shy person that was kind of coddled at an early age by a mother that was risk adverse, drew a circle around you in the sand, didn't let you off the front garden, to being the person you are today? What is it that does that to somebody?
I think there's a few things around this because I don't think this is exclusive to me. I think a lot of women especially experience this. I think, well, first of all, I might be wrong, but I don't think we're born shy. I think it's our situational environment that creates that. And secondly, you can be shy but still have fire in your belly, which is what I had. You know, I had that ambition and that burning desire. And when you have that passion, you have to release it. You can't keep it inside just because you're shy. And I think there were many things that I did. You know, I remember in my very early 20s holding a conference, my first conference for my army of sales ambassadors, which I had about 500 in my first year.
For Ann Summers.
For Ann Summers, yeah. Yes. And I held this conference at the Grand Hotel in Brighton. And I thought it was a great idea when I planned it, because the whole idea is to engage with your teams and tell them about what you're doing and what your mission is and get everybody involved and on the journey. And it was sort of, you know, a few hours before I was going on stage, I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Because this was like horror to me. I had no experience and I was, you know, absolutely terrified. But if you're talking about something that you are passionate about, I think it changes it. It's not the same as doing a best man speech or, you know, getting up at school and doing your first speech. When you're talking about something that you really care about and that you live and breathe, once you get out there and you've got that first sentence out the way, I do think it changes you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what it did for me. So I'm a great believer that courage comes first, and I've always had a lot of courage. And I think if you have the courage eventually the confidence will come.
Yeah. So yeah, from what you've said there, it's like the courage is forcing you to create evidence for yourself.
Yeah, it's forcing you to step outside your comfort zone. And then we all know, anyone that's successful knows that when you do, great things happen.
Yeah. And your comfort zone then expands, becomes a bit bigger, and then you step another and
Exactly.
Interesting. So you said there about work, and you've always had that drive. When I was reading through your story again, I heard about one of the things your mum did allow you to do was to work. And so I was thinking about the relationship work you then had in your life from a very early stage. If work was the place that you were allowed to go to leave the home, then was it an escape from home? Was it like the place of freedom in your life?
It was so freedom. I mean, well, first of all, I can't tell you the countless times I'd asked her if I could go to a sleepover or a, party or just things that normal kids do. And it was always no. And there was another sort of form of abuse was this, her and her husband had this, her new husband had this taskmaster approach to everything they did. And it was, there was no end to it. It's never like you could ever finish the tasks. And they were like digging the garden. They weren't like cleaning the kitchen. They were like digging the garden, bringing logs up. It was manual labor for my sister as well. And it was like, these jobs will never get done. So we'll never be able to go out. It was a bit like Cinderella. As I'm telling the story, it sounds a bit like that. But she seemed to accept things that were traditional. So going to work was something, or getting a Saturday job is something that people do. So that was okay. So I couldn't get a bus into Bromley to meet up with friends, but I could get a bus into Westerham to go and work at the spinning wheel as a waitress.
So did you look forward to that?
Absolutely. And of course, there weren't the rules then. I was working at 14 years old. I worked in a bar at Biggin Hill Airfield. I did waitressing. I worked in a hairdressing salon. So, that was a release.